Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's session, I'm going to show you another type of peony flowers using the Afghan technique. So this flower is made in one piece, so you don't need any glue. Special thing of this one is in the pistil, we will mix two colors, the color of the pistil and also of the main flowers. You can use just one color for the flowers, or you can make it gradient by using two shades of color for the main flowers. For the leaves, we'll have one big leaf and two small leaves. This pattern is quite intermediate, so if you are not very familiar with the Afghan technique, I recommend that you can start with other pattern on my channel. For the hook, I'm using 2.5mm hook. So I strongly recommend that you use the hook that is specific for Afghan technique, which has a long and straight body and also a pointy end, so it's going to be easier for you to pick up the stitches. You will need some markers and floral stem and 5 floral wires of about 30 to 40 centimeters. For the yarn here, I'm using again Susan 4 for applied cotton yarn. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna start with the yarn color for the pistil. You can use any color for the pistil that you want. Here I'm using a dark pink. Make a magic ring and then make one chain into the ring, and do not count this one as a stitch. And in the magic ring, we're gonna do 6 single crochet. And pull the yarn to close the loop. Then you're going to do 1 slip stitch into the front loop of the first stitch, the front loop only. And in the first row, we're going to work on the front loops only. And you can put a marker on the back loop of the first stitch. Okay, so this is the first layer of the pistil. So you're going to do 5 chains. So for this flower, we will use the Afghan technique, where you're going to insert your hook into the back bumps of your stitches. So if you turn the chains, you're going to see at the back there are little back bumps here. This is where we're going to insert our hook into. We're not going to work on the V loop at the front here. We're going to work on the back. And if you make 5 chains, you're going to see at the back there's going to be 5 back bumps or vertical bar. This is how we normally call it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to insert your hook into the very first one, the very first vertical bar here. If it's too hard for you to insert the hook into the first bump, I recommend you to, when you do the last chain, you can make it a little bit bigger or looser, so that will give you some space and it's easier to work on the first vertical bar. And then do a slip stitch. So we're going to do 5 slip stitch into all those 5 vertical bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one here. So you finished one, and then you do a slip stitch into the next front loops. So skip this one. This one is the first stitch. We're going to insert the hook into the second front loop, and then repeat 5 chains. And then 5 the vertical bar, and then do 5 slip stitch. And repeat, slip stitch into the next front loop. So repeat the pattern until you have 6 stamens for the first layer. Okay, so you finish 6 stamens, and then do a slip stitch into the last stitch front loop, and then do a slip stitch into the back loops, the one that you put a marker here. And then we're going to do 6 single crochet increase in the back loops. So first do 1 chain and do not count this one as stitch, and then do 2 single crochet in 1 back loops. And then at the end of this row we should have 12 single crochet. So that 12 single crochet, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the front loop of the first stitch, and again put a marker on the back loop of the first stitch. Okay, so in this second row of the pistil, we're gonna start doing a mixing of the pistil color and the flower petal color. So you see the second layer here, it has 2 colors which make this flower really beautiful. So we're gonna start with the pink color first, and you're gonna make 6 chains. 6 chains, and again working on the vertical bar, you're gonna do 6 slip stitch. Start from the first one. Use the main flower yarn and hold your yarn like this, and we're gonna do a slip stitch into the next front loop. But when you do the slip stitch, you're gonna use the white yarn and pull it through like this, and then pull this pink yarn tie, and then start working with the white yarn. And here you're gonna do 7 chains. 7 chains, and then you're gonna do a slip stitch into the first vertical bar. And then in the following vertical bar, you're gonna do 2 single crochet, then 2 half double crochet, then 1 double crochet, and in the 7th vertical bar here, you're gonna do a slip stitch. So that's the first flower petal, which is mixed into the pistil. And then you're going to do a slip stitch still with the white yarn into the next front loop. And we're not going to make any stamen in this stitch. So this will finish one set of pattern. So this pattern will have 1 pink and 1 white and 1 skip stitches, which is 3. And because this row had 12 stitches, so it means that you're gonna have 4 set of this pattern. So for this second layer, you're gonna have 4 pink stamen, and you're gonna have 4 white petals. So to start the next pattern, you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch, but we're going to chain to the pink yarn. So bring your pink yarn to your left hand and make sure that the white yarn is here. It's between, like it's on top of the hook. In this way, we can bring the white yarn together and it's not hanging down. And then do a slip stitch and pull the pink yarn and then pull the white yarn so a little bit tight. Yeah. And now we're going to start working with the pink yarn again and do 6 chains. And then do 6 slip stitch. Six. And then we're going to do a slip stitch into the next front loop, but we're going to chain to the white yarn. So bring the white yarn to your left hand and then the pink yarn, make sure that you put it on top of the hook and then pull the white yarn. Then here we're going to make a petal with the white yarn with 7 chains. Then do a slip stitch into the first vertical bar. Then do 2 chains, sorry, 2 single crochet and 2 half double crochet. And then 1 double crochet. And the last vertical bar here, we're going to do a slip stitch. Okay, so that's it, the second petal. And do a slip stitch into the next front loop with still with the white yarn. And then when you do the next slip stitch, use the pink and make sure the white yarn is on top of the hook. And repeat until you have 4 pink stamen and 4 white petals. Okay, so now you finished the last white petal. And then you're going to do a slip stitch into the last stitch. Then we're going to slip into the marker here, the back stick. But we're going to chain to the pink yarn to do the slip stitch. And then we're going to do the base for the 3rd layer of the pistil. And you're going to do 12 single crochet. So 1 single crochet in each back loop. Okay, so that 12 single crochet. And then you're going to do a slip stitch into the first front loops. Before that, bring the white yarn to the back. And then we're going to do the slip stitch with the white one. And keep the pink on top of your hook like this. Okay, so we're going to start the 3rd layer of the pistil with the white yarn first. And we're going to do a white petal. So we will start with 9 chains. And then we're going to work on the vertical bar. So do 1 slip stitch in the first vertical bar. And now we're going to use the Afghan technique to do the stitches. So we're going to do 7 unfinished single crochet, or like 7 Afghan single crochet. So what you're going to do, you insert the hook through the bar and leave it on the hook. Repeat and make 7 unfinished single crochet. Okay, so you should have 8 strands of yarn on your hook. Now pull the yarn through 2 loops at a time and repeat until the end. Be careful not to pull the yarn through more than 2 loops. Okay, but you're gonna skip the first vertical bar and start from the second vertical bar, and you're gonna do normal single crochet. Do 6 single crochet. The 6th one is here. That's 6 single crochet. So you finish the first white petal. Now you're going to do a slip stitch into the next front loop. So find the first front loops. So this is the first one. We're going to slip into the next one. But when you slip the stitch, we're going to flip to the pink yarn and make sure that you keep the white yarn on top like this, and then hold the pink yarn and then pull the yarn through the loops to make a slip stitch, but with the pink yarn. You can pull the white yarn to make it tight. Now we're going to do a stamen with the pink yarn. You're going to do 7 chain. 7 chain. And then working on the vertical bar, you're going to do 7 slip stitch. And then you're going to do a slip stitch into the next front loop, and in the meantime changing the yarn to the white one. So bring the pink on to the front like this, and then hold the white yarn and then pull the yarn through to make a slip stitch. So remember, always bring the non-working yarn to the front and the working yarn to the back. In this way, you won't be able to hide the yarn within your stitch and make your work look neater and cleaner, and also it doesn't cover the back loops. Okay, so repeat the process so you won't have one white and one pink alternatively until the end. So you should have 6 white petals and 6 pink stamens. Okay, so now you finished the row and you should have 6 white petal and 6 pink stamen. So you can do a slip stitch with the pink and then cut the yarn, cut the pink one. Now we're going to do the base for the first layer of the petal. So you can start from any back loops at the back, and we're going to do a pattern of 3 single crochet and 1 single crochet increase, and repeat it 3 times, and we're going to have a total of 15 stitches at the end, this one. So do 1 chain and do not count this one as a stitch, and then do 1 single crochet, 2, 3, and then 1 increase, and then repeat. You should have 15 stitches now, and do a slip stitch into the first stitch front loops, and you can mark the back loop, the first back loop. Okay, so now we're going to start the first layer of the petal. So we have 15 base stitches, and we're going to have 5 petals for this layer. So each petal we will work on 3 stitches of the base. So we'll start with 9 chains. And then working on the vertical bar at the back here. From the first one, insert the hook from the first one. We're going to do 9 unfinished single crochet and using the Afghan technique. So as you can see, we're going to hold a lot of stitches on the hook. That's why you will need a hook that is, first, it's at a pointy tip, so it's easier to insert into the vertical bar, and also the body should be straight so it can hold a lot of stitches. So that 9 unfinished single crochet, and then you're going to do one more unfinished single crochet into the same front loop, into the first front loop here, the first one. So now you should have 11 strands of yarn on your hook, and then pull the yarn through 2 loops at a time. Be careful. Okay, so that is row 1. For row 2, we're gonna chain 1, and then from the first vertical bar, you're gonna do 8 unfinished single crochet. So you can see there are 2 more vertical bar here that is not, we're not going to work in this row. We're going to work on only 8 vertical bar to create a short rows. And pull the yarn through the loops. For row 3, so we're going to work from the second vertical bar. So skip the first one, insert the hook into the second one, and then do a slip stitch. Then do 2 chains, and from the first vertical bar of the chain, insert the hook, and we're going to make 10 unfinished single crochet. So 1, 2, do not hook into this slip stitch, skip this one, and insert the hook into the next one. So that 4, 5, 6, 7. The 8th one will be where we finished the second row here, and then 2 more that we didn't work on the second row. So you would have 10 unfinished single crochet, and then do 1 more unfinished single crochet into the next front loop. Okay, so now you should have 12, I think 12, yeah, 12 strand of yarn on your hook, and then pull the yarn through the loops. Okay, so for row 4, we're going to start from the first vertical bar and then do 8 unfinished single crochet. Okay, so you see there are 2 vertical bar that we're not going to work in this row. That row 4, and for row 5, we're gonna skip the first bar, insert the hook into the second bar and do a slip stitch, and then do 2 chain, and from the first vertical bar you're gonna do an Afghan single crochet and do 10 single crochet. Skip this hole here. The 8th one is in the okay, so this is 10 unfinished single crochet, and then you're going to do 1 more into the next front loop. So this is going to be the 3rd front loops. For row 6, again from the first vertical bar, insert the hook, and then you're going to do 8 unfinished single crochet. And there are 2 more vertical bar that we're not going to work. Okay, so row 7 is the end of this petal, and we're going to work from the second vertical bar. So skip the first one, and insert the hook into the second bar, and we're going to do 9 slip stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then do 1 more slip stitch into the third vertical bar. Okay, that's how you make the petal for this layer. So there are 7 rows, and they are worked on 3 stitches of the base. To start the second layer, do a slip stitch into the next front loop, and then repeat. This is the last petal of the first layer. Now we're going to do a slip stitch into the back loop where we got the marker to make the base for the second layer. Okay, so we're going to make 15 single crochet into the back loops, which means there is no increase in this row. So make 1 chain and do not count this one as a stitch, and then do 1 single crochet in each of the back loops. Okay, and you do a slip stitch into the first front loop, so to start the second layer, we want the second layer to be darker a little bit from the first one. So we're going to do a slip stitch into the next front loop, and then you can start the second layer. And this second layer is similar to the first one. We're going to have 5 petals, and each petal is worked on 3 stitches of the base. So we're going to start with 11 chains. And then from the first vertical bar, we're going to do 11 unfinished single crochet. And then you're going to do 1 more single crochet, Afghan single crochet into the first front loop, the one that we just do the slip stitch. So you should have 13 strands of yarn on your hook, and then pull the yarn through 2 loops at a time. Okay, for row 2, you're going to do 1 chain. So to make the Afghan stick easier, when you do the chain stitch, just make it a little bit looser than you normally do. So make a bigger one, a bigger chain stitch. So it'll be easier for you to work the first vertical bar. So insert the hook into the first vertical bar, and from there do 10 unfinished single crochet. 10. So you see you still have 2 more vertical bar that we're not going to work on this row. So for row 3, start from the first vertical bar. We're going to do 2 slip stitch. So 1 slip stitch and a second one. Then you're going to do 9 unfinished single crochet. That 7th one, the 8th one will be the bar that we end the second row. So it's going to be 2 stitches in that last vertical bar. So 1, that's the 8th. I think that's the 8th one, yeah. So 9, that 9 unfinished single crochet. So here there is still 1 more vertical bar that we haven't worked. Row 4, do 2 chains. Then from the first vertical bar, do 12 unfinished single crochet. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is the end of the last row here, and then 12. And then do 1 more in the next front loop. So far we only work on the first front loop. Now we're going to do in the second one, and then pull the yarn. For row 5, do 1 chain, and then insert the hook in that first vertical bar and do a slip stitch. Then from the next vertical bar, you're going to do 11 unfinished single crochet. So there is still 1 vertical bar here that we not going to work. So row 6, from the first vertical bar, insert your hook, and we're going to do 2 slip stitch. 1, 2, 2 slip stitch, and then do 8 unfinished single crochet. Okay, so it will be like this. So it's going to be like an edge, like this. So here you can see we still have 1 bar and second bar, 2 more bar that we're not going to work on this row. Row 7, do 2 chains, make a bigger chain, and then from the first vertical bar, do 12 unfinished single crochet. 6, 7, 8, 9, the 10 and the 11. it's going to be where we join with the previous row. So 10, 11, and 12. So that 12 unfinished single crochet, and then you do one more in the third front loop. So I think you're gonna have 14 strand of yarn on your hook, because it's getting very tight now. Be very careful when you pull the yarn. Make sure you don't accidentally pull the yarn through 3 loops. So the 8th row is the last row of this petal. So you're going to do 1 slip stitch into the first vertical bar. Here, if you use the normal hook, it's going to be very difficult to work on the first one. So 1 slip stitch into the first vertical bar, and then we're going to do 11 normal single crochet into the rest of the vertical bar. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then do 1 slip stitch into the third front loop. So you finish the first petal of the second layer. So similar to the first one, this one, each petal is worked on 1, 2, 3 stitches of the base, and it has like 3 little cuts on top of the petal here. And to start the next petal, you're going to do a slip stitch into the next front loop, and then repeat the pattern. I'll see you when you finish all the 5 petals.